Hello, everyone. Welcome to UXPin YouTube channel. Today, I'm recording a new interview in a new project um, called Women in Design, and we're talking with successful girls who work in the design industry because we think International Women's Day is a good cause to honor. What the huge leap the industry took thanks to brave design people in the past, and we are taking a stand in like giving the voice to the people who are probably maybe experiencing some challenges like being in groups like ethnic, economic, or gender bias. So we're talking about like the success and like hardworking teammates and showcasing inspirational examples of how you can really make it in the design world. So I'd like to welcome you, Lauren, to the UXPin YouTube channel. Could you please tell us a bit about yourself for starters?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Lauren Chilcote. I'm currently a senior product designer at Buffer, and I work on our published product. We're a fully remote distributed team, so this is new to me. I started last May, so I have the privilege of being able to travel around and be super flexible with my time and go where the creative juices seem to be flowing. So currently in France, which is exciting. But yeah, I actually started out as a graphic designer and eventually made my way here. So it's been quite a journey. Learned a lot. But yeah, that's me today.
Thank you. Could you please tell me because I'm wondering how did your career path go, when? Did you receive support from your colleagues, and if so, who was that, and how did they help you particularly?
Yeah, so I feel like it's a more and more common story to have a really sort of non-linear path to where you end up, especially in design and tech. And so I actually went to school for fashion design, and I knew that that wasn't what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure what I did want to do. So I got a job in the apparel industry, and I started teaching myself more about illustration and graphic design, and eventually sort of like pitched the graphic design team at my company and said, you should hire me as a graphic designer. And they took me on. So it was a lot of on the job learning. I loved it. I was there for quite a while, but after a little while, I sort of grew tired of the really slow feedback loop that was happening in fashion. I was designing a year out, and then I often wouldn't get feedback about those designs from, I definitely wasn't hearing from customers. Like I might hear from a merchandiser what sold well and what didn't, but it just felt like every time we were kind of taking a stab in the dark. And around that time, I sort of became more interested in product and tech, and I wanted to be able to sort of tinker on things or just continually evolve designs instead of, working a year ahead, shipping it off to a factory, and then being like, that's it, done, can't touch it ever again. So I started teaching myself to code, and then I ended up taking a class at General Assembly to learn front-end development. And that was a key part of my journey, I think, because it gave me a chance to get some formal training, but it also introduced me to a wide group of people who were coming from different backgrounds: designers, PMs, students, people who were totally changing careers. So I learned a ton there. I was able to start, building some websites, taking on a little freelance work. And at that time, all of my colleagues at that graphic design job just thought it was so cool. They were like, you built that, you did that, that's magic. Like how, and so it felt very cool, and I really appreciated all of their support. And while that was happening, I was sort of trying to break into like the tech industry, and it was a huge roller coaster for sure. I mean, any job search there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And I certainly dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome, just feeling like I'm a total fake. I don't belong here. I don't know what I'm doing, and everyone can tell. But I just kept at it, and eventually got someone to say yes to me. And sort of the way I learned on the job in that graphic design position, I started learning on the job as a product designer too, and just taking everything on, just like continuously biting off more than I could chew, and then just figuring out how to deliver. So yeah, that's my journey.
That's amazing. Like I'm sensing that feedback is like really important to you in your career path, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think some of that is a little bit of the imposter syndrome, like wanting to feel validated, but also just, when it comes to right now designing products, like customer feedback is huge. Like, am I even close to hitting the mark? Is this resonating at all? Getting customer feedback is always like at the center of, what I'm trying to do, because I'm designing for humans, and I want to make sure that those humans I'm designing for, that it resonates with them. So yeah, I think always getting feedback. That's very important to me.
Yeah, I love like user or customer centered product design. That's how it should go, right?
Yes, definitely.
Could you please tell me, Lauren, is there something like a story or like a specific project that you are really proud of in your career?
That's a good one. Let's see, specific projects. Um, I would say that it's a fairly recent project that I worked on with the team at Buffer, sort of like after I had a few months to kind of like settle in and wrap my head around the product and the customer and the problems we were trying to solve and all of that. I'd had a few couple smaller tasks, like got a few wins under my belt, and then it was time for like a big project. And so, for anyone who doesn't know, Buffer Publish is a tool that helps small direct-to-consumer businesses schedule, report on, manage their social media. And so the team had just come off of basically a big UI overhaul. So just improving the look and accessibility of everything for a main product. And that took quite some time. And so it was time to sort of start playing catch up a little bit with features, and something that we knew that our customers wanted. Instagram is huge for our customer. But Instagram stories in particular has become even almost more important than posting to your Instagram grid, because stories are just constant, and you might make one post to your grid that someone might or might not see. So we needed to come up with a solution for that, and I think that was my that was the biggest thing I was had taken on at the time. And so it was a little bit scary to sort of like step up and say, this is what I think we should do. This is how it should work. This is how it should feel. Here's some scope we can cut. Here's what we should do for, here's our MVP, but I think getting that out the door with the help of my team, everyone involved in that, certainly not just myself, but that was a really good experience. And it felt like we really leveled up in the product and like brought something important that our customers had been asking for a long time to market. So that was super cool.
Fun fact, as a Buffer user, I remember that change.
Oh.
Oh my God, this is so awesome. So I forgot about it.
Oh, that's so cool. Thanks for sharing that.
So yeah, I would say that was a huge project for you. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So do you have anyone in your, like at your work or like in your group of friends who you are like specifically proud of, and you would like to like like use this occasion to give kudos to?
Ooh, okay, yes. So I mentioned that I'm traveling in France, and I'm traveling with my friend Chelsea Fierst, who she had been working at a job for a long time, and within the past year and a half, decided to step out on her own as a freelancer. And so she is an experiential designer. She is a beautiful painter. She's really good at like telling stories within a space, sort of understanding who her customer is and then creating an entire space, whether that's a window or an event or a room for interiors, creating a whole space around that person and who they are. And I'm super proud of her because her work is amazing. And I know that she wrestled for a long time with, do I take this step? It's very risky, because when you work for someone else, you have a constant paycheck. In the US, that means you have healthcare too. There's all these things. And so it was really her stepping into the unknown. But I think Chelsea Fierce is going to take the world by storm. She's doing amazing, and I'm super, super proud of her.
Good for her. So you told us that you took, with, like going into product design as well, like your friend is now with, like entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So like I think that's very important in like what we're talking about, like empowering people to like showing the examples of like taking steps into the unknown, as you said, can be like of course risky, but can come with amazing results.
Yeah, it's really cool to be able to watch that firsthand and to see how she's just blossoming and stepping into her own, and learning to have difficult conversations about money, and sort of being not backing down from being the authority on a work site, and saying like, no, I need this and I need that, and not apologizing for it. And just like being a boss, that's a hard thing to do, and she's doing great. And so it's really cool to see that example like happening before my eyes.
That's amazing. Well, I think showcasing these examples is like a good way to advocate for diversity and like inclusion in work environments, because like people who are brave are bringing so much more energy into like our work. And do you think there's something more maybe that we can do to like preach or say the diversity in our workspace?
Yeah, I mean, I do think one part of it is just amplifying other people's voices. And so, sharing people's work, whether that's on Twitter or LinkedIn, or just sharing articles or whatever it is, just, giving some people the limelight who might not be getting it organically. But I also think, I was recently involved in the hiring process for an open role on my team. And it was a really cool opportunity to see how at Buffer, we really care about diversity and inclusion, but it was cool to see that how we're really walking the walk and not just talking about it. And, reaching out to job boards and communities that are centered around, less represented folks in tech, and saying like, even if you don't feel like you fit this job description 100%, if this feels at all right to you, come talk to us. Like really, really encouraging, not just putting something out there, but like saying, please come talk to us. So I think, if you are involved at all in hiring or are in any position of power, to be able to sort of ask like, what are our, diversity and inclusion policy? Like, what are we doing to try and make diverse perspectives, or even just trying to understand, do we all agree that diverse perspectives make for better products? I hope that is sort of like a baseline agreement in most places, but it probably isn't. And so even just like sharing articles or resources showing how diverse perspectives and backgrounds can be a huge force for positive change in a business, and try and connect the business dollars to that diversity, any way that we can do that, I think is helpful. So I think there's lots of different entry points and ways that we can do this, even if we're not, at the head of HR of our company, or don't feel like we're in a position of power. And, doing anything is better than doing nothing, because you never know what that one small thing you feel like you're doing, what knock-on effects those have, who might see that, who might hear it and have the courage to say something else. So yeah, I think even small steps can be important, and have kind of a snowball effect.
Yeah, exactly. Gotcha. And like once since we're talking about like work, I'd like to ask you because we've, as UXPin, we've recently did like a huge design trends research and a lot of interviews as well. And one of the main like key trends for 2020 was accessibility or inclusive design. And I would like to ask you, like, what is inclusive design to you?
Yeah, this is a good question, and I think feels very topical for me right now because it's a conversation we're having a lot at Buffer. And to me, I think inclusive design is really, it's about acting beyond yourself, to make sure that people of all ages and abilities can access your product or your design. And I think it's interesting to think about how, like, in an increasingly digital world where you might need, an email address to go to the library, or I went to the doctor recently, I had to use a tablet to fill out my medical records and information. Like, more and more everyday tasks are done by interacting with an interface. And if we don't think about all, everyone being able to utilize those interfaces, then we're really blocking people from just performing everyday common tasks. So I think it's super important to think about. But I find something that is also interesting, an interesting perspective, is that oftentimes when we talk about accessibility, the most common thing we're talking about is like a disability of some sort, color blindness, or perhaps like motor abilities. But there's also sort of like temporary situations that we all might find ourselves in. So like someone holding their kid in one arm, so they only have one arm to do something. Or if I'm working on my laptop in a coffee shop and there's glare from the sun and I can't see and I need better contrast. So I think when you design for everyone, when you think about accessibility, you're really making your products better for everyone in all kinds of situations. So it's not just about, signaling that you care about people with diagnosable, disabilities. We all need help in different situations. So it's good for everyone to consider accessibility, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, of translating design design choices to like business values, I think that's a really good argument because I heard like people saying like, okay, we're not including like this disability or that because like that's like 1% of our users. But what you say like shows us that it doesn't have to be like that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think sometimes it can be hard because I know, like, anytime I'm working with my team to design a new feature or tool or something, we're always trying to cut scope. And it's easy to look at the data and say like, well, only 10% of people are taking this action, so let's not include it in the design. Like, that feels easy. But when you're saying, 10% of people like can't click this button or tap this button because the tappable space is not big enough, then you're excluding a whole group of people. That's a little different. And yeah, I think you can tie accessibility to business dollars, and we probably just need to do that more often, because ultimately a business wants to make money. So yeah.
And on more less business, more creative note, because you said at the beginning of our interview that you are in France looking for inspiration. Could you please tell me where do you get your inspiration? Who inspires you in your work?
Yeah, I'm a big people watcher, and I feel like when I travel, especially abroad, my senses are very heightened. All the sounds and sights and smells, like everything's different, and I'm keenly aware that I am an outsider in this situation. But I love watching the way people interact with each other or with products, or like on the flight over here, there was someone in front of me in the seat who was using the in-flight entertainment system to try and find a movie. And she was just like furiously scrolling through things. And I was like, oh, wow, like clearly she wants to do something and she can't figure out how to do it, or, you know, or like, a friend was using Airbnb and trying to get to her messages, and she kept clicking the button and she was like, nothing's happening. I don't understand. And then I looked down on the bottom left corner of the browser and I was like, oh, it's happening. It's just we're on a really slow connection. But there was no loading state on the
Oh,
button to indicate that something was happening. So I just love watching people and how we all interact together and with objects and devices and stuff. And I feel like I get a lot from that. And traveling sort of amplifies all of that. So I definitely have been feeling more creative as I travel, which has been really cool.
yeah. So again, stepping into the unknown, because if you travel, like it's like totally new world for you. Like, you know.
Yes, yes, totally.
Well, thank you, Lauren, for all that you shared with us. I hope that it's going to be a huge inspiration to a lot of designers who are watching us. And good luck in your travels. Say hello to Eiffel Tower for us.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. It was great to talk to you.
Thanks.